Charles Oliveira is taking on Gamrot this Saturday, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit nervous, okay? It's not that I don't think Charles can win. I actually do think he can. It's just that a few factors are stacked against him. He's getting older, he just got knocked out by Ilya Topuria not that long ago, and he's jumping right back into the cage. But I think people are getting it a bit twisted when they say Charles struggles with wrestlers. That's not necessarily really true in my opinion. If anything, he's pretty good at dealing with them. I mean, you can even argue that in his last fight with Armin Tsarukyan versus Charles Oliveira. He took some ground and pound in round 2, but in round 1, he almost caught Armin in a guillotine. And in round 3, he had that nasty Darce choke that looked tight. Obviously, Armin did win, but who's to say the fight would have been different if it was 5 rounds? Same thing with the Islam fight. Everyone remembers Islam outstriking him, but those grappling exchanges were actually very competitive. Charles made Islam very uncomfortable with those triangle setups, the leg lock attempts. He never really let him settle or breathe on the mat. Even with Kevin Lee, that's another example. The guy was a strong wrestler, but Charles found his openings and made him pay. So I wouldn't say he's bad against wrestlers. If anything, he's dangerous in those spots. It's just that someone against like Gamrot, a grinder, a wrestler's wrestler, he's gonna have to be sharp and make those submission threats count. And to be fair, there's another side to this too. Like, let's just be honest, Charles hasn't actually submitted anyone since back in 2022 against Justin Gaethje. That's been a while ago. So yeah, the threat is still there. I mean, Charles is still always dangerous off his back, but it's fair to wonder if that killer finishing instinct on the mat has slowed down a bit. Now, don't get me wrong, Gamrot knows exactly what he's dealing with. He's never been submitted in his UFC career, and that's not by luck. The dude's grappling IQ is elite. He's smart about where he shoots and how he controls and how he escapes. But even the danger with Charles is consistent, in my opinion. Like, even if Gamrot shoots in a little sloppy, he's gonna snatch your neck and guillotine and lock it up before you even realize it. And that's the chess match here. Gamrot can't just shoot like he normally does. Against most guys, he'll go for a takedown after takedown, grind them out, but with Oliveira, that's a risk. Every level change comes with a price tag because one wrong move and he's in the choke. But then again, and this is where I keep going back and forth, we've seen Gamrot get clipped before. He's been rocked. He's been forced to panic shoot. And that's when things can spiral fast. Charles is the worst guy in the division to do that against. If you give him that 1 second of desperation, like bro, when you really look back, RDA, Jalen Turner, even Dan Hooker, they all rocked Gamrot at some point. Every single one of them hurt him and forced him to panic shoot. And that's what makes me think a guillotine is actually going to play in here. The more I think about it, the more I can picture the exact moment Gamrot gets cracked, instincts kick in, and boom, he shoots straight into danger. That's where Charles is the most lethal. Now, don't get me wrong, Gamrot's wrestling is legit, but it's not Khabib's level of domination. It's not that type of pressure where you're glued to the mat and can't breathe. We've seen it plenty of times. You know, guys like Hooker, Turner, Beneil, all of them being able to get back up or at least create some scrambles. His control is good, but it's not suffocating. That's why I keep coming back to the idea that he's not just going to hold Charles down for long stretches. I just hope Oliveira stays active on the ground. Like, if he's on his back and can't trap Gamrot in a submission, then don't waste the whole round hunting for it. Use those butterfly hooks, post up, get back to the feet, and reset. Because at the end of the day, activity matters. You can't just sit there trying to bait submissions. That's not there. Especially against a guy who's good in scrambling. Because if Charles can make Gamrot think twice about every takedown, that's how he's going to win this fight. He just needs to make him hesitate. The moment Gamrot starts worrying about getting caught in something, his entries get slower, his chain wrestling rhythm breaks, and that's when Charles starts finding those clean knees, elbows, and uppercuts. But we can't ignore the elephant in the room, the chin. Charles has always been hittable, even in his prime. He got dropped by Chandler, dropped by Poirier, dropped by Gaethje, and now he's coming off that clean knockout from Topuria. That's not ideal, especially with a quick turnaround like this. The risk is real. One good counter while he's pressured could change everything. But here's the thing. Being durable isn't as the same as being untouchable. Gamrot's been rocked a lot. We've seen it again and again and again and again. RDA has caught him clean and wobbled him early. Beneil Dariush dropped him. Armin Tsarukyan landed a spinning back fist that snapped his head back. Even Jalen Turner cracked him hard enough to make him panic shoot multiple times. That's not bad luck, dude. That's a pattern right there. And that's what worries me for him here. Because Charles is the worst guy in the division to panic against. When you heard Gamrot, his instincts is to drop levels and wrestle his way out of trouble. But with Oliveira, that's the exact trap that you don't want to fall into. The moment he ducks his head for a takedown, that guillotine is right there waiting. And you know what does make me a little bit nervous though? It's when Charles isn't pressuring forward, when he's on the front foot, that's when he's at his deadliest. He's confident, he's sharp, he mixed in knees, uppercut, and just walks you down. But when he's getting pushed back, that's when he's in his most vulnerable. Not just to getting hit, but to getting taken down and losing those submission setups. You could see that in the Arman Tsarukyan fight. Every time Charles was backing up, his submission threats almost disappeared. He was too busy reacting instead of forcing those chaotic scrambles he's known for. Because the thing about Oliveira is that his jiu-jitsu doesn't just come alive off his back. It comes alive when he's the one that's dictating the grappling. When he's pressuring and making you shoot, that's when he catches necks and throws up triangles. But when he's the one retreating, like against Arman, it's a different story. His submission attempts come slower, he ends up defending takedowns rather than attacking them, and that's when he can control or lose minutes on the ground. And that's the tricky part with Gamrot. He's the kind of fighter who can back you up without even landing clean. He'll just feint, mix in levels, keep you guessing, and before you know it, you're reacting to his rhythm instead of forcing your own. So yeah, that's what worries me a bit. If Charles starts on the front foot, walks Gamrot down, he's a nightmare. Every shot Gamrot takes becomes a risk. But if Gamrot can push him back early and keep him guessing, Charles might not even get the chance to set up those traps. The pressure has to come from Charles first, or the submission threat fades with it. That's really why Charles has to walk Gamrot down to win this fight. Pressuring is everything for him. When he's the one moving forward, he's not just striking, he's setting traps. Every step forces Gamrot to make a decision. Do you circle? Do you shoot? Or do you stand your ground? And that's what Charles wants. He wants to put you in a position where no answer feels safe. Because when Charles is coming forward, he's at his most dangerous. His striking looks cleaner, his combinations flow better, and the submission threats multiply. Think about it. When he's walking someone down, you're not shooting takedowns with confidence, you're shooting out of panic. And that's when he finds your neck, that's when he gets the guillotine, the darts, the triangle, all that crazy Bronx magic starts coming to life, you know? We've seen it so many times. Chandler had success early until Charles started walking him down. Once Charles flipped the pace, it was over in a second. Same thing with Gaethje. Once Charles started pressing forward and throw those long tight combos, Gaethje was fighting off instincts, not strategy. That's what happens when Charles gets momentum. He turns his fight into an avalanche. And honestly, I think he can walk Gamrot down. Gamrot's striking isn't built to scare people off. He's technical, yeah, but he doesn't carry that one-shot power that makes Charles hesitate. He's more of a rhythm guy. Touch, move, shoot, repeat. But Charles doesn't respect that kind of power. He'll eat one to land two. And if he feels Gamrot's shots aren't stinging, he'll just keep walking him down. The real key is Charles not letting Gamrot get that early confidence. If Charles walks him down from the starts, mix in those front kicks and knees to the body, and make Gamrot fight moving backwards, it changes the whole dynamic. Suddenly Gamrot can't time his shots cleanly, and every takedown attempt starts looking more desperate. That's when Charles shines, when his opponents are reacting, when they're second guessing every move. If he forces Gamrot into that kind of fight, a reactive high-tempo brawl where Gamrot's defense breaks down, that's how Charles gets his finish. He doesn't need to be perfect. He just needs forward pressure and needs to build that chaos, and that's exactly what he's built for. But yeah, I'm putting all my chips in. I'm going all in on Charles to win by first or second round submission, probably by a guillotine or maybe even a rear naked choke if Gamrot starts panicking and giving up his back. Now, don't get me wrong, Gamrot's tough, but this matchup feels like one of those fights where toughness alone doesn't save you. You can't just survive Charles, you gotta shut him down completely. And that's a hard thing to do in Brazil with that energy behind him. So yeah, Charles Oliveira is my pick. Hopefully he wins this Saturday. You know, it'll be a good moment. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And like always, I'll see you on my next one.